Firestarter. Andy and Vicky have been escaping for more than 10 years in a desperate attempt to hide their daughter Charlie from the hands of a sinister US agency bent on harnessing her incredible gift to turn fire into a weapon of mass destruction. This fantasy, suspense and horror film starring Zac Efron is a remake of the 1984 film and based on Stephen King's novel of the same name. We were very interested in watching it, as well as many others, and the truth is that we were disappointed and found it a bad adaptation of the novel and a bad remake of the original film. Even with renowned actors, this production does not stand out at all. To begin with, it is not shocking. There is no such thing as horror, as it's not scary at all. And you do not feel any suspense. It's like the story lacks fluidity and the performances do not help. It's true, almost all the performances of the entire cast are average and some are even bad, especially that of the child actress in the main role. Zac Efron is also not good in this production, as his performance seems forced, false, not at all convincing, and gives you the impression that he was like bored when filming his scenes. All the production elements do not stand out at all and are average or even bad, including the special effects that leave much to be desired. To us, it seemed more like a movie made for TV with a minimum budget than a big screen film production. The truth is that we ended up bored and found it mediocre. To this disappointing production, we give it 1 star out of 5. The 1984 film with Drew Barrymore in the role of Charlie is much better and more entertaining, although it is not spectacular either. We recommend that you watch this version, or better yet, read the novel. Gold. In the not-too-distant future, a wanderer traveling through the desert discovers the largest nugget of gold ever found. He must protect it from thieves amid harsh conditions and from wild dogs as he waits for his companion's return. This survival and suspense film starring Zac Efron has an original, interesting, intriguing story with a good dose of suspense and drama, especially as the story unfolds. The story itself is somewhat predictable, to be honest, but keeps you hooked thanks to how it is captured on the screen with very good production elements such as cinematography, makeup and set designs that help to keep you interested and therefore to continue watching it until the end. The performances of the few actors who appear in this production are all good, especially that of Zac Efron, who is convincing in his role. He does a good job in conveying the emotions, anguish, fear and pain felt by the protagonist of the story. This film kept us entertained, and although it is not spectacular, it leaves you with a good message in the end about greed. It's a good movie to watch and have a good time, so we give it 3 stars out of 5. Infinite Storm. As an experienced climber ascends Mount Washington, she turns back before she reaches the summit as a huge blizzard approaches. But on her way down, she encounters a lone, stranded man and takes it upon herself to get them both down the mountain before nightfall arrives and they succumb to the storm. This drama and adventure movie, starring Naomi Watts, is inspired by real events and explores what happened to the search and rescue volunteer Pam Bales. This production has a story that is interesting, dramatic, emotional, and with a good dose of suspense, but the truth is that it also has parts that are slow, somewhat frustrating, exaggerated, and difficult to believe. What is shown on the screen did happen, but we all know that sometimes the producers make the mistake of exaggerating what really happened to make the film even more dramatic, and that is what we think they did in this case. As for the production elements such as cinematography, makeup, special effects, and set designs, these are all good and there is no reason to underrate them. Naomi Watts' performance is good and convincing that helps to enhance the movie by making it a little more believable thanks to her. So, this production is not as spectacular, but if one pays close attention to the story about the amazing feat that this woman accomplished, her heroism, in the good message the movie conveys at the end, and not in the somewhat dull and slow parts that are in the story, it's a production that is worth watching. So we give it 3 stars out of 5. The Desperate Hour. Amy Carr receives a call with terrible news. Authorities are chasing an active shooter, and it is possible that her teenage son, Noah, be involved. Overwhelmed by worry and miles from the city, Amy refuses to succumb to despair. With her cell phone as the only means of intervention, she tries the impossible to save her son. This drama and thriller movie, starring Naomi Watts, has an original story in its own way that explores a fairly current issue that are the cases of violence that happen too often in schools in the United States. In this film, this theme is presented from the point of view of a mother who learns that her son's school has been closed by the police for finding an active shooter and several teenagers trapped inside it, and she does not know if her son went to school that day and whether or not he is safe. For us, the way they capture on the screen the anguish, panic, and pain of the mother as the story unfolds seemed decent, dramatic, emotional, and in parts even moving, especially if one puts oneself in the mother's shoes and wonders how one would behave or what would you do in a similar situation. That said, to be honest, there are some parts that seemed somewhat slow, repetitive, and even predictable that you could say that lengthened the story unnecessarily, spoiling the film a little. It's still interesting enough to keep watching it until the end. As for the performances, there are more scenes with only the mother talking on her cell phone than actually seeing actors act. So Naomi Watts' performance stands out and is actually good, convincing, and credible. The performance that we did not like and found average was that of the actor who plays the role of her son. The production elements, such as cinematography and sound, are decent. This film was presented as a social critique of the rampant violence that students too often face in colleges or universities in the US, but many have criticized it for not achieving such objective. To us, it was a production that kept us sufficiently interested and entertained until the end. It's not very good nor bad. It's a little more than average, so we give it 2.5 stars out of 5.